จะไปเรียนต่อเนี่ยควรจะใช้ที่ปรึกษาด้านการเรียนต่อดีไหมนะคะสวัสดีค่ะยินดีต้อนรับเข้าสู่ช่องของนิชาวงศ์นะคะวันนี้นะคะตอบคำถามที่หลายๆคนถามกันเข้ามาเยอะมากๆเลยก็คือจะไปเรียนต่อเนี่ยควรจะใช้ที่ปรึกษาด้านการเรียนต่อดีไหมนะคะซึ่งวันนี้ก็พิเศษยิ่งกว่าพิเศษค่ะเพราะว่าเรามานั่งอยู่กับ CEO ของ Crimson Education นะคะซึ่งก็คือคุณเจมี่นั่นเองนะคะแล้ววิดีโอเนี้ยก็จะเป็นภาษาอังกฤษด้วยนะคะอย่างที่หลายๆคนที่ติดตามช่องของนี้นะคะก็คือจริงๆแล้วอันนี้เคยสัมภาษณ์น้องฟินที่เป็นนักเรียนไทยของเรานะคะแล้วก็ได้ใช้บริการของทาง Crimson Education แล้วก็ได้ไปเรียนต่อที่ Berkeley University นะคะตอนนี้ก็อยู่ที่อเมริกาแล้วน้องกำลังเรียนอยู่เลยนะคะวันนี้ก็มีคนอินบ็อกเข้ามาถามนี้เยอะเกี่ยวกับเนี่ยเรื่องของที่ปรึกษาการเรียนต่อก็เลยคิดว่างั้นเดี๋ยวเชิญคุณเจมี่เนี่ยเข้ามาเล่าให้ฟังกันดีกว่าว่าแบบที่ปรึกษาด้านการเรียนต่อเนี่ยเขาให้บริการด้านไหนบ้างแบบมีเซอร์วิสด้านไหนมาช่วยน้องๆและผู้ปกครองที่มีความฝันอยากจะไปเรียนต่อต่างประเทศยังไงบ้างนะคะเดี๋ยวก่อนที่จะไปลงรายละเอียดกันเนี่ยก็เดี๋ยวก็จะให้คุณเจมี่เนี่ยแนะนำตัวก่อนแล้วก็วิดีโอนี้เป็นภาษาอังกฤษทั้งหมดเลยเนาะเดี๋ยวก็ไม่มีซับไตเติลขึ้นให้นะคะก็ค่อยๆฟังกันไปนะคะ I would like to warmly welcome Mr. Jamie to Nisha Wong channel. Can you please say hi to my follower and also please introduce yourself a little bit to my followers?
Hey everyone, my name is Jamie Beaton and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Crimson Education. Almost a decade ago, I launched Crimson to help ambitious kids from all around the world get into the world's best universities like Harvard, Yale, Princeton. The company arose from my personal experience, going to Harvard for my undergrad degree, Stanford for MBA, Oxford, Yale, Princeton and other postgraduate programs, and I love to help ambitious students find their dream university.
So it seems like you've been through like so many schools yourself, did a lot of application yourself. I would love to know a little bit more the story of the Crimson. Like, how did it all start? What motivated you to build Crimson Education?
So I found, growing up in New Zealand, it's a country of 5 million people, pretty small, and it was hard to get good college admissions advice, and I always thought I wanted to stay within New Zealand for university. But when I was 14, I met this student who had gotten into Yale, and he told me that I should think about applying overseas. So I spent the next 4 years going down this application process, preparing. I took 10 A-levels, did a lot of different extracurriculars and leadership. Then I applied to all these schools, 25 in total, because I just had no idea what I would get into. So I applied to all the strongest schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, Columbia, Wharton, Cambridge, and then got into all of the schools. And at this point, I had many classmates that were actually a lot more academic than me who had tried to get into these schools and were unsuccessful. And I felt there was a big opportunity to take some of the lessons that I had learned from my experience and help this next generation applying. So we began Crimson when I was about 18, before I had actually even begun at Harvard, and I recruited many of the classmates of mine that had just gotten in, and we began the journey in New Zealand and then have since grown it around the world. Today Crimson's in about 23 countries with physical offices, but we help kids in most of the major application countries, and we have more than 700 full-time staff, so it's an amazing team.
Wow, that's really huge. Like you come a long way from when you started. So a lot of my followers and also like their parents as well, they actually have a lot of questions on how can like a consultant like Crimson Education can help them fulfill the dream of like attending like the top school university in the world. So it's a great question. So I guess the first thing is when you're applying for these top US and UK universities, I'll start with the US. The application process involves academics, extracurriculars, leadership, essays, interviews. It's quite complicated. And the student's really being assessed from age 14 to age 18 on all these different facets. So our job at Crimson is to help guide the student as to what they should do in every week of every month throughout high school on all these key choices, what subjects to take, AP or IB or local curriculum, what summer programs to do, what extracurriculars to do. And we even help our students launch interesting leadership projects, do research while they're in high school, do internships and other experiences like that. So the job is to really build the student's profile, and then finally we help them to figure out how they're going to position themselves to the different universities with those critical applications, then impress those interviewers and then get those offers. So that's our job at Crimson. We like to start very early when the kid's about 14 and then go on that journey with them. So it looks like to apply for like a university, you not only have to be good at academic, but everything else has to be well-rounded, like leadership experience, work experience, and really like know yourself well.
That's exactly right, and it's really interesting. In countries like China and India, the entire application process focuses only on academics. But for the US, it's this very holistic process where students are really being tested in terms of leadership, extracurriculars, sports, community service, academics. And the students who really get into the world's best universities often have performed very well on all those criteria. So as a student, you've got to wonder, what do I do with my time? Where do I focus? You know, should I do more subjects? Should I do this project, summer programs? What do I focus on? So Crimson's job is to help you kind of navigate through that, you know, maze of options and then get in.
When is the right time to like start reaching out to Crimson? Like if they are like 15 years old already, is it too late? Like how does that work?
Yeah, too late. No, jokes. So basically, we do have a lot of students who join when they're around 14 because the process is 4 years long. But we have a lot of students who find out about Crimson, you know, when they start thinking about university, maybe when they're 16 or even 15. Some students might even come in that last final sprint to help with those applications. But the ideal time is when they're 14 because we have that full time in high school to help them grow. For our even more ambitious parents, we even have Crimson Rise, which is 10 to 14-year-old. And that is a key range where actually we can help the student develop their interests in extracurriculars and leadership before the process even begins, so they're quite well prepared. So I would say any time around that is pretty good, and the more time we have with the student, the more we can help them grow.
So if they come from like 10 years old, it's not like, oh, I'm going to go to this and this, but it's more like you help them with self-discovery. Or like, oh, which area you want to focus on in the future, which university, so help you plan your future basically.
That's exactly right. And recently we had this student, her name's Amphitrite, she got into Stanford, and when she was 14, she was already clear that she liked sociology, folklore and mythology. Very unique majors that I didn't even know about when I was her age, to be honest. But that kind of clarity requires some self-discovery beforehand. And in this process, if you already go into high school knowing what kind of areas you want to focus in, it might be AI safety, artificial intelligence, it could be bioethics or engineering. That helps you to really focus on what you want to do throughout high school so you can use your time most productively. So that interest discovery at the beginning is important, but beyond just interest discovery and knowing kind of what academics you like, it's also good for the student to learn things like, you know, time management, study skills, leadership, communication. So they're actually quite confident when they head into those intense high school years.
Can you give example of how, like, let's start from the self-discovery process.
Yes.
If I just used Crimson's when I was 10, how can you like give example of case study? How can you help me know like what I want to do in the future?
Beautiful. So at the very beginning, I would sit you down and you would probably go through our diagnostics. One psychometric test to understand more about your personality, and the other one's a kind of career diagnostic where we help you figure out what kind of academics and career subjects you like. From there, I'm going to look at your academics, see how you're doing in school, your grades, you know, your extracurriculars, see what you've been doing so far. And then I'm going to get some information about what kind of countries you're interested in and what your goal universities are. From there, I'm going to develop an academic plan around what support you need, what counselors, what mentors, etc. And I'm going to help you lock down those 2 or 3 main academic subjects we're going to focus on, what curriculum that we want to choose, what summer programs we should train you for, extracurriculars you need to do, and leadership. And that plan will be designed at the beginning. And then as we go through high school, we'll help you execute that. Whether you need a top debater to coach you, or you need an amazing writing coach to help you with an essay competition, and then we'll bring you through that high school journey. And then as things change, maybe your passion, maybe you go on a trip to Colombia and you realize actually you love journalism. We've got to adapt and evolve. That's a very natural part of the process. And then come application time, the goal is to apply to typically about 12 to 15 universities with a really clear academic strategy. So when I applied to, for example, English at Yale, you know, financial engineering at Columbia, you know, government at Harvard, economics at Stanford, and we optimize the student's profile based on what each school is looking for.
How much time like does each student have to spend with Crimson each year?
Yes, we get to know the students very well by the end of all of this because we usually are spending time with them typically every week or two, depending on what time of the year it is. During the summer programs where we're helping kids apply for them, or during the application year, we might speak to our students every couple of days, or even every day when it's really crunch time. During times like the middle of school, we might be working with that kid once every 2 weeks or so, and then it depends on how we're supporting them. If they're working with us for research, developing a research paper, that could be pretty high intensity, or tutoring. If we're just doing the academic counselling strategy, we might meet with them a little bit less frequently. So it's all personalised around what the student needs, but we like to meet with the student pretty intensively because we want to make sure they're really getting those best results.
And how about like in terms of like the team, like what are the team that you help provide to the student? Like do they have like one consultant or like the team? Like how does it work in the process? Like who I'm going to meet after the student?
Amazing question. So a funny story for you. Back when I was in high school, actually, I had tutors in not 1, not 2, not 3, but 7 different subjects. I had tutors in, you know, math, chemistry, biology, physics, French, the SAT and stuff. And Crimson, in many ways, the early model was designed based on the experience I had in trying to make myself as effective as possible going through high school. So it's a team-based model where students will have one main counselor, somebody like me, who's been through the application, has studied at schools like Harvard and Stanford and stuff. Then we're going to give them some other mentors for certain areas, like the SAT, or maybe, for example, Model United Nations or debating. And that team will work with the student over several years to then get them in. So there's going to be one overall consultant who designs the strategy, the master plan, and then these different mentors that will come in for certain crucial areas. So maybe you want to build an Android app, or maybe you want to learn how to do computer-aided design, or to make a podcast. We'll bring in mentors from our network of more than 2,500 to support you on that journey. And the cool thing is all these mentors come from the world's best universities. So as the student goes through the process, they're meeting folks from MIT and Yale and UCLA and Berkeley. And so they're building that cool network, and they're also getting more and more inspired, which is pretty exciting.
Become their motivation to even want to go further and push even more hard.
That's right. We've also built a pretty cool technology platform, and we've got a big team of engineers across New Zealand, China, and America. And on our platform, all the students' information's on there, but also we've got some really cool AI features where the student can use our app to generate new ideas for example, leadership projects or application essays, or actually search our database to find what extracurriculars they might want to do. And all of the sessions are logged, recorded on the platform, so parents can also check in and see how their child's doing. So it's all really stored in the central app. So the whole Crimson journey is clear and easy to access, and that's been quite important because there's all these mentors around the student. That coordination is essential, so the student's got one source of truth and one strategy to get into their dream universities.
I see. Cool. We talk a lot about the student. How about the parents? How do you work with the parent to support the student to fulfill their dream?
So I'm a huge advocate for bringing parents into the process. When I was going through high school, my mum was really influential in my own journey. So she took me to all my tutoring. My last year in high school was actually more stressful than working on Wall Street, building Crimson, going to Harvard or Stanford. It was really intense. And so my mum was that key support figure, that emotional support system. So whenever I was stressed, she'd be there for me. So in Crimson, we like to include the parents in the process. We give them regular updates after all the lessons. They can check in and see how the student's performing. We invite them to certain meetings around things like application essays or key strategy moments. And we really welcome them in because they often have good insights about their child. A lot of the time the parents will have great trust in Crimson, so they'll be there at the beginning. We'll do our work with the students. The student can kind of be their own individual spirit, but they'll come in for key moments, and we really welcome that. So we aim to make sure the parents understand what's going on and can support their child. Because frankly, if you're a busy parent, like many of our parents in Thailand, you've got all these things to worry about, and your child's education, there's APs, IB, SAT, all these applications, all these acronyms. So we want to make sure that parents can follow along and play a key role in that child's journey.
That makes sense. Cool. I think we get to know a lot about Crimson, but there's also like other consultants in the market as well.
Of course.
So I would like to ask, like, what makes Crimson stand out from the market?
So it's been an amazing journey over the last decade. We've actually become the world's largest and most successful college admissions firm with over 800 Ivy League offers. So many local counsellors, they're only in Thailand or maybe they're in Singapore, but Crimson's actually got teams, physical offices in more than 23 countries. We've got the biggest team of counsellors, nearly 300 full-time counsellors, and we also have the biggest team of former admissions officers. So we have people on our team that used to work for Harvard and Yale and Princeton and Stanford. The other thing is our founders, myself and my partners like Feng Zhou, have actually lived this journey. I'm on my 10th degree now. I've been to these different universities. I know what it's like. And so the combination of our resources, our scale, and all the data we're bringing in from kids all around the world helps us to bring to each student here in Thailand a really personalized and effective strategy. The other thing is because we've been able to really grow, we have all these interesting enrichment offerings where kids can do internships at great companies like Uber, or they can do things like launch their own podcast, or they can research with professors from universities like Princeton. Even if they want to do extra advanced placement classes or A-levels, we've got a fully accredited high school where the kids can take these extra classes alongside their existing school. So it's a powerful set of resources that ultimately leads to happy students, motivated kids, great results, and hopefully some lives changed.
Cool. And how many Thais have you sent to this top university?
At this point, we've sent more than 300 Thai students from both Thailand and around the world to these top universities. And we've sent kids to schools like MIT, Columbia, different Ivy League schools, more than 13 Ivy League kids already. Yeah, it's been fantastic. And also a lot of kids go to the UK, schools like Cambridge, Oxford, UCL, King's College London, and we've had some really amazing results just to cycle in Bangkok already.
And you also support both undergrad school and graduate school.
Yes, so if you think about Crimson, as I grew up from a student in high school all the way to now in the last 10 years, as I went through this journey from undergrad to different graduate schools like law and business and PhD, we first of all focused only on undergrad. And then as we mastered postgraduate admissions, we then began doing postgrad. And so now we actually have really strong teams for both postgrad and undergrad. Here in Thailand, our most popular is actually undergrad, but we send many kids around the world to top business schools like Harvard, Stanford, Wharton. We've had kids get Rhodes scholarships to Oxford, students going off to law school and also even medical school like Harvard Medical School, even international students. So we love postgraduate as well, and also of course many of our early students who have gone to the US then use us for postgraduate too, for that next phase of their education adventure.
We talk about like this top university use English a lot. Can Thai student in Thai school program also like use this service and go to top school?
Yeah, absolutely. So here in Thailand, we help both students at international schools, but also local Thai students. And in fact, we've had some really exciting results. Recently, we had this boy called Finn who got into UC Berkeley. I think you might have met him.
Yes.
Very amazing. And then we also had another student called Palm who got into MIT, which is absolutely amazing. And in fact, I've noticed a trend in the last several years because we've had many local Thai students getting into MIT. MIT seems to love students from the local curriculum who competed in local Olympiads and things like that. But yeah, Finn and Palm, two great examples of local Thai students getting to the world's best universities through Crimson.
That's cool. Very impressive story, yes. And so if any student or parents want to reach out to Crimson, what do they do now?
Great question. So they can go ahead and go to our website, crimsoneducation.org.
Show up.
Yes, and also they can add us online and join our team here in Thailand. And I love to meet our students as well, so if you reach out to us, I'd love to hear your story as well.
Cool, so today I would like to really thank you, Mr. Jamie, for coming to my channel. I think we learned a lot of good insight, and I'm sure like this is very helpful for my followers. And lastly, before like we leave, I would like you to share some like tips and tricks or like advice or just motivation quote for my followers who want to go to the top university.
Yeah, sure. I'll give some key tips. So the first tip that I would give you guys is that this process ultimately is all about finding a personalized strategy for you. So the exciting thing about this is you can really be who you want to be and build a whole candidacy around that. If you want to do environmental science, if you want to do astrophysics, if you want to do psychology, you can lean into those strengths. And actually being yourself is one of the key advantages in this process. So the first thing I would say is start early and find out what really gets you excited. The second tip I'd give you is to use early decisions strategically. In this admissions process, you can choose to apply to a school, binding, and if you do that, it boosts your odds substantially, 4 or 5 times. So applying early decision is a really good way to stand out and actually lock in an offer in that competitive round. The final thing I'd say is take high school really seriously. I was really focused on high school, and getting into Harvard totally changed my whole world, helped me get jobs on Wall Street and to build my company all around the world. Take education seriously and really strive for the stars. We look forward to seeing you soon and all the best for your education journey.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jamie. Bye.
See you guys.